Welcome to the Real Estate Baller Show. If you ever enjoyed any of the video we posted, if you like this channel, please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. It helps this channel more than you know. And the bigger this channel gets, the more people we can help achieve financial freedom. Thank you and enjoy this episode. Oh my God, welcome Andrea. So happy to have you here. I am super impressed. It's not every day that I get to talk to another powerful lady on the show. So I am impressed. I think the audience will be impressed. Can you share who you are, what you do? Go ahead, brag.
Well, V, I want to thank you so much for having me. It's a great honor. I always love to, share value and always be a part of a podcast, where I can bring value to people. So for most of you that don't know me, my name is Andrea Cruz. I am the owner of Cash for Keys Home Buyers. We are a real estate investment company where we started as a wholesaling company, but slowly we gradually started doing wholesaling, flipping, buying holds. We do owner finance, sub-twos. So any, strategy you can think of out there in real estate, we've done it all, and so I'm very proud of, our company, how we started just as a wholesaler, and now we're practically doing all these strategies you can think of, so.
You're located in Houston, right?
I'm located.
Are you a native?
Yes, born and raised in Houston, H-Town, baby.
And how long have you been
It's been 7 years now. I was a hairdresser prior to moving into real estate. I had my own hair studio, and I did very well for myself. I had it for 8 years, but the whole thing here, I wanted more freedom, and I read the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I realized that I was in the wrong quadrant, right? I said, if I don't show up to my hair studio, there's no way I can make money. So, once reading that, I liked about the whole investing part. So that's how I started getting slowly into real estate.
Maybe there's something here, because I also was running my family business, the nails business for 10 years before I stay.
No, that is, yeah. And I did really well. Like I was a really good, and I still am a good hairdresser, but I did really well for myself. But it was the freedom that I was looking for,
Yeah. That's right. It's that working like 7 days a week and long hours.
Right. And it was weekends that was kind of hard because I had to be there on the weekends all the time. And that's, I have 4 kids and I wanted to, and I'm married. So I wanted to spend time with my family. So that was really what really motivated me to get this business, my real estate business up and going. Cause I'm like, I'm ready to have more freedom in my life.
Totally get it. Get it, girl. So today, what does your operation look like?
We used to have an office with a lot of people in there. When you start, a lot of people get that shiny syndrome where it's like the more, the better. And I realized that after, doing my taxes for the first year, I saw that I made money, but I didn't keep most of it, So now we are actually a virtual company. We work virtually. So everyone kind of works from their home or their office or pretty much anywhere. So we have VAs or acquisitions. We have 3 acquisitions. I myself run the acquisition part of it. And then we have a dispo that does our disposition as well. And then my husband, he does all the contracting work. And then we have a VA who does kind of, the transaction coordination. So we're very small. We're like a total of like 7 of us, small, but it's value that I'm looking for now on people versus before I had a big team and it was just a headache. So now I learned from that and now I have a smaller quality people. And, that's pretty much what our operation looks like. And, I do all the acquiring. my husband helps me doing all the fix and flips, and he manages all our projects out there.
Was powerful, right? Like that's smart. But that's how you run a good business, staying lean, make a lot of sale, have a lot of high revenue, and ahead.
Yeah, and I learned that the hard way. I before I would hire a lot of people because, you think you're going to get more, but no, it's smaller is better. And I like it.
Yes, better.
Yes, it is. It is.
What was it like back then? Tell us about your very first deal, because I love to hear about first deal. Everybody has different
first. Yeah. So experience. It's funny you mentioned that because sorry, my dog. So it's funny you mentioned that because whenever I was doing my hairdressing, I had already money ready to invest. So I'm a very I like the way I learned. I did. I had a lot of money. I am very disciplined when it comes to the money. I'm very thankful for my parents for passing that on to me. One of the things my mom used to always tell me was, it's not about how much you make. It's about what you do with what you make. And that always stood in my head every time I was like, I have to create something with the money that I'm making. So I had money saved up and I was like, okay, I want to find, because at the time I didn't know what wholesaling was. It was flipping was the thing. And so I went into my first flip with no experience, nothing. I was just the way I learned was I have to do it. If I'm going to learn how to do this, I have to actually go through the process of it so I can learn to do it, because there's so many times you can go and listen to people on how to flip, on how to acquire. And I'm a very action taker. I love to take action because that's how I learn, and one of my beliefs is if this is either going to work or it's not, but I'm going to know, I'm going to learn something from this. And let me tell you, I learned. So I purchased my first property pretty blindly. I had this guy gave me the numbers, right? And I was like, okay, the numbers look good to me. I'm buying it, So I got the lending and everything. Well, this property was everything that could go wrong into this property, went wrong for me. And even whenever I was 2 weeks in this, I found out I was pregnant, and I was not expecting to have any more kids. I was done. So that was a huge surprise to start off with, right? So now I'm pregnant. My emotions are crazy. And so we started doing the rehab. And as soon as we were, I had a lot of issues in the middle of my rehab with contractors. They were doing the work not right. I had a contractor that showed up drunk to the job. And, he was the one doing our foundation. So when he was done with our foundation, our house it was pretty much caved in. So that was a mess. And then, so after we were done, going through all those issues through getting the property done, we were done. We listed, I even staged the property because that was a thing too, right? You want to stage it to sell it quicker. Mm-hmm. And the house flooded. It flooded the whole, and I had flood insurance.
7 years ago. So that's happened, right?
They will happen through the tax. I don't know if you remember the tax season. It was in Memorial.
Yeah.
It was that. And do you remember how it flooded right after that too? We had something. So it flooded twice, 2 times. Oh. And I had redid it and refixed it. And it
flooded?
No, I didn't have flooding.
Oh my God.
I didn't. And thank God my husband he's a contractor. So, he does a lot of things. He knows how to fix a lot of things, but he obviously couldn't do them all. So and then not only that, but the lady who had staged the property, she also had her things in there. And so she was kind of holding me reliable for those things as well. And I was like, oh my God. So it was a mess. And I was, like I said, in the middle of it, I was pregnant. And so I was so stressed out. It was really bad for me. And then once we got done, we fixed the property. But at that time, when I sold it, I had took a loss on it. I took a loss of $80,000 on it. So all my savings that I had saved they were gone. They were gone. I was so, but it's funny because I was hurt, but I was so happy to get out of this. Like, I just wanted my peace back. I didn't even care about the losing the money at that point, because I was pregnant with a baby. So this was a whole 9-month process, the whole entire time. The entire time I was pregnant, I was going through this flip, and it was a nightmare. I even called it the nightmare. It was called Eagle Rock, the name of the street. I'm like, the nightmare on Eagle Rock. And then later on, I had found out that someone had actually committed suicide there. Yes, it's so I was like,
Was it
after, like, I was already in the middle, and I was like, man, I think this property is like,
after
no,
sold it?
I found out whenever I was in the property still. So I had to disclose that, whenever I sold it. But they committed suicide in the garage. They actually hung themselves. And I was just like, oh my God. So I was like, that's probably why all these things are happening to this property. But I mean, overall, I got done. It was a nightmare. It was bad, right? I never told my husband how much money I lost because he was not going to let me continue into real estate, So I told him, yeah, he knew I took a loss. I didn't tell him until later. I started becoming more successful. I actually told him the truth, about it, because he was like, you're crazy. And after that, a lot of people would have quit, like would have been like, this is crazy. I'm not.
Yeah. I mean, okay. So hold on. It's crazy. You probably like on the top crazy of dudes right now.
Yeah.
This one. So how did you, like, why did you continue? And how did you overcome
it was hard. Like, I tell you, I feel like a failure at the beginning. Like, everything inside of me, I was going through a tough time because I just had a baby too. So my emotions, were kind of going crazy. But I grew up with boys, right? So I'm a very, whenever your brothers hit you and they beat you up and you kind of come back and you're like, oh, I'm not going to let you beat me up. I'm going to come back and get you. So I was built with that in me where I'm like, life just took me out right now. I got to come back. I'm not going to let it just, in my mind, I'm like, I'm coming back for my money that I lost. Like, I was upset, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do it, and I knew for sure I didn't want to do flipping because I was scared to close on another property because of everything I went through. But I learned about wholesaling. And so I was determined to wholesale a property. So while I was working, because I had my hair studio, that helped me to kind of pay for, like if I wanted to do marketing and things like that. But I went to a mentorship. So I found a deal, right? I found another property that I was going to wholesale, but I went to a mentorship with Rafael Vargas, and it was not a mentorship. It was just a program. It cost us $5,000. And I asked my mom, can you loan me those $5,000? Because I really want to learn. And I know I messed up the first time, but I know everything I did wrong. So she was like, yes, she trusted me. So she gave me the money. And I went with another girl, and we actually paid for this guy's mentorship. And she had a property she wanted me to flip with her. And I was like, no. And my mom was going to let us borrow the funds to flip that property. And I was like, no. I said, why don't instead we wholesale this property and let's pay with the money my mom was going to let us borrow. Let's pay for this mentorship so we could learn to do this the correct way. So that's what we did. And we took a leap of faith because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing right now, but I'm just, having faith that by buying this mentorship, it's going to help us. And sure enough, I mean, that's really what kind of helped us because now we learn how to build the systems, the processes, the marketing, the operations, everything. And that's what helped us to really, and this was before wholesaling was a thing here in Houston. We were one of the first ones to go out there with this mentor guy. And then a lot of people started to find out like, hey, these girls, because they started to see how successful we were. They're like, these girls went to this guy's mentorship. So then a lot of people, because that's where cold calling and SMS they were not a thing yet. Like nobody knew about them. Everybody was still doing direct mail, was doing like all the, what we're doing now is funny because now we're doing that again. But, they didn't know about hiring a cold caller to cold call, where to find the VAs at. So that's what we were trained on. So that's how we were able to get better. So the third month of our mentorship, that's when we hit our first 100K month. We made 100K and we were just like, oh my God, like we couldn't believe it. And I cried because I was like, oh my God, I got my money back. But I was so determined, and I knew it in my heart, like I'm going to give it my all in this mentorship because I want to learn this and I want to get my money back. So that's how and then that's how we kind of learned from there. And we just like took off, it was like a rocket ship, it was like, we went from doing nothing to like, boom, like we started doing like 6 figures, each month. So, and then,
well, I'm so happy for you. Like you just my new idol.
Yeah. But, through the thing, through like all of these things at the very beginning, it was hard, because, and that's what I like to tell people. I like to let them know real estate is not easy. A lot of people make it sound like it's easy, but it takes everything from you to learn and to be disciplined and to take action. And, you are going to take losses and just don't give up, I learned from every mistake that I did on this first flip, like contractors, don't give them money, right up front, make sure you know your numbers. I didn't even know my numbers. I blindly just took that property, but I wanted to take action so I can learn, I was like, it's going to either go good or then go bad, but it's just, you got to keep going. And I'm so happy that I didn't give up. I'm so happy because have I given up, I would have not, learned the new way of doing this and building the systems and building a business out of it, because I never in my mind, I thought I was going to build a business. I just wanted to learn a wholesale, but they taught us how to actually run and operate a wholesale business, and not even just a wholesale, but a virtual wholesale business. We started doing deals in other markets, and it was mind blowing because I'm like, wait, you telling me I could do a deal without me having to be there and all this? So it was a really life-changing, leap of faith. Yeah.
So amazing. Amazing. So we're going to have to bring Rafael Vargas on the show.
He's not even doing real estate anymore. He's not. That was years ago. But yes, he is awesome.
Yeah.
I do like him. A lot of people don't like him now, but I do.
All right, so hair stylist going to real estate. How did that
happen? That goes kind of back from me, saying about reading that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I started to read that book and I realized, and there was no reason for me to even look for something else because I was doing very well in my business. Well, I thought I was doing well, right? Until you start doing real estate, you're like, wow, I can make more money. But it was the freedom I was looking for. I always like to pursue things. Like I always want to see how can I improve myself, So when I read that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I realized like, man, I'm in the wrong quadrant. I'm like, I pretty much own a job. So I'm like, how can I take myself from here and still make money? Or how can I be traveling with my family and still make money? So slowly, I worked 6 days a week for 3 years until I made the whole transition. So I even went from working harder because I was like, I'm not going to go into leave all my clients until I know that real estate is really a consistent thing and is really paying me, So for 3 years, I worked really hard, and I know I said I wanted more freedom, but it was funny because I had less freedom, but it wasn't until I knew that I'm like, okay, I can let go of this and just focus on this. So that's pretty much, I had an office with my partner and I would leave that office around 3:00 and then worked in my studio from 3 to 8. And I did that for 3 years, for 6 days a week like that. And I was burnt out. I was tired, but it's like, you got to sacrifice, for freedom, for your family. And I would tell my kids, because my husband's like, you don't have to do this. You don't have to work like this. And I'm like, I know I don't, but I'm just, doing it because I don't want to leave this until I know for sure this is going to be good. So, I took a big sacrifice for that, but now we travel a lot, my family, because we're a family of 6. It's expensive to travel with kids and all that. So I have a 20-year-old, I have a 17-year-old, I have a 12-year-old and an 8-year-old. Yeah.
Oh my God! Why my husband and I
we got married right out of high school. We met in high school. We're high school sweethearts. So we've been married for 20 years. Yeah, and it's been a journey, for us, because my daughter, my 20-year-old, she's watched me go through all of this, and she tells me all the time, Mom, you're a huge inspiration to me because I've watched you work so hard, to give us a good life, because I lived in a neighborhood. It was not a rough neighborhood, but it wasn't your safest neighborhood. And I didn't want my kids to grow up there. I wanted them to have a different life that I did, and that's what I wanted. Every time I felt like defeated and like lost, or like, what am I doing? That was my why, right? Like, why am I doing all of this for? And it was always for them, because I wanted them to grow up in a different lifestyle than I did, not to struggle. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, sometimes it's not good to give your kids this, but they watch me. I always make them involved in what I did. So that way they know, hey, if you want something, you got to work hard to get it. Nothing is given to you in this life. So through me and through my husband, they watched, like, man, my parents were happy they never gave up, because they never gave up, we get to have a good life. So now whenever they start their own family and they have their own kids, they can be the same way, right? Because I always tell them, I'm not going to give you anything. You want something, I'll be behind you and I guide you, but you're going to have to work for it, So they definitely have that. We instill that on them, that, in order to have something good, you got to sacrifice a little bit, to have what other people don't have,
Totally agree. I share a similar principle with my daughter.
Yeah.
I have one.
That's why you get to travel all over the world.
Well, let's take a moment to celebrate your wins. So where have you, how many places have you traveled to? And what's your best vacation?
So, we traveled to, different places. We've been to, Cabos. We do a lot of beaches, right? So, Cabos, Cancun. We've been to Tulum a lot because we love Tulum. Puerto Vallarta. Which other one? Jamaica. And which other one? This one was in... not Turks and Caicos, but it's the Virgin Islands, Disney World, because everyone has to do Disney World. We've been to Disney World twice, and we do a lot of trips in Mexico because we love the beaches and stuff. So yeah, it is. Yeah. It is. But our favorite one was definitely Cabos, and we stayed at this really nice hotel. It was $1,000 a night, but you're like, hey man, you want to live that, because it's all about building memories, right? You don't want to work hard and you don't have anything to show for. So, we felt like, man, this is nice. We can get used to this, So that was one of our best experience there, because we stayed in one of the nicest hotels that they had, and it was all inclusive. So we were just kind of living the life at that moment. And in those times is where you get that state of gratitude, where even my husband and I were almost in tears, but tears of joy, because, we knew where we came from. We came from nothing. We were very young parents. So we started from living in the back of my mom's house to now, we built our dream home. We have a house, it's a stucco home with a, Mediterranean roof, with a pool, 5 bedrooms. They all have their own, restroom. So it's like, we go back and we look like, man, remember we started in the back of my mom's little 2-bedroom apartment, and we went from there to this. It really gives us so like gratitude and happy that we were able to build this together. And it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. We fought a lot through it. We felt like we failed, and we did. We took some losses, but we took some wins. And that's how you learn, the process. And I'm big about not being afraid to lose, because from the losing is where you're really going to learn, because you don't really learn nothing from winning, right? Because you win and you're like, okay. But from the losses is where you learn and you build that character, and, you build that person, that makes you who you are now, and so I'm always thankful for my wins and my losses. Because I feel like without them, I wouldn't, be where I'm at. And we don't learn from, winning. We learn from losing. So I always tell people, don't be afraid to take chances, because that's where you're going to learn.
So just a quick recap on the freedom. You started this business for freedom, and I think you got freedom, right? 7 years, you travel to many locations, you get to hang out with your kids, your family a lot more than being a hairstylist, because hairstylist, you got to be at your salon morning to night, right? So congratulations again. Now let's get back to it, huh? So what does a typical day like for Andrea?
So I have a routine. I built this awesome routine for myself, and I get up at 4:30 in the morning, and I like to get up at 4:30. I know people are like, you're crazy. I don't have to, but I just like it, because I like to have my prayer time, with God, and that's very important to me, because I'm very thankful for where He has brought me to, because a lot of times in my failures, I feel like, oh man, this is it for me. And so He's taken me out of those and put me in where I'm at now. But I have my prayer time, my meditation time from 4:30 to 5:30, and then I go work out. And then after that, I come and I do breakfast for my kids. This is my typical routine when kids are in school. Right now, they're not, but I still try to keep that in place. And I wake up with my kids and make them breakfast and get them kind of ready for school. And I spend my time with them. And every time I get the kids up, I always tell them, hey, what are you thankful for? Are you thankful for this? So I always teach them to have that gratitude every morning, because and then they also have affirmations that they read in the morning. They have them on the restroom. And my daughter has like verses and stuff that she likes to read, because I like to teach them that, like, hey, you have to have the gratitude. You have to speak life over your life, right? So you have to say, I'm great, I'm awesome, I'm this, everything you want to be, because I feel like life already kind of pushes you down. So you got to make sure that you speak life over your life. So that's something I teach all of them, to do. They do their bed. That's another thing I teach them, make sure every morning their bed is done. So we have breakfast in the morning. I drop one off, and my other two, they already have a car, so they kind of do their own thing. But we always, every time they leave, I give them a little morning prayer. We all say a little morning prayer before we all step out of the house. And then once they are all gone, I get rid of them. I take my dog to walk. I'll spend some time with him because he also needs some love, And then after that, that's when I kind of get to work. I go, I look at all of the things that didn't get done the day before. I look at all the offers that were sent. I always like to look at all my KPIs in the morning, like what was done yesterday and what could we do today. Any contracts that were sent out, I, evaluate them. Any projects that are being done, I kind of look at like where are we at with them, like on timeline, like, hey, should we be finished and things like that. So I always get on a call with my transaction coordinator so we can kind of see what needs to be done. And then I kind of build a little schedule for my day. Like, okay, I'm going to do this. I focus. So I only work about 3 to 4 hours in my business. And then after that, I try to do things for myself, like, maybe go to a little walk or go play tennis because I like to play tennis. So I try to balance everything.
Not
No, I'm new to that. That's something new, but no, but tennis is what I like to. It's kind of the same, but because I knew about tennis first, then I did, the pickleball. So, yeah, I tried to not work too hard, because I don't like. I came from a place of a burnout, when I first started, and I learned that there's nothing good coming from a person that's burnt out. And I know a lot of people always say work hard, work 12 hours a day. That's not, no. You're only going to work yourself to a burnout and you don't perform. So my thing is I try to be my highest self so I can perform the best, because as a business owner, everything goes through you and from you. So how you treat everyone around you, what decisions you make are very important. So if you're coming from a place of a burnout, you're no value to no one around you. So I try to keep myself in a state of gratitude, state of peace. I look at things, not if I'm upset, I don't make any decisions. If I'm hungry, I don't make any decisions. So I just kind of check myself whenever I'm looking and making decisions that I'm making them feeling my best, So in the mornings, that's why I like to work, because after 3 or 4, I'm already done. My brain's done making decisions, So I try not to make any more decisions after that.
Don't make when you
never. I learned that. Don't make decisions when you're hungry, or don't make decisions when you're upset, or don't make decisions if you didn't get enough sleep. If you're tired and you burn out, I don't ever make decisions, because I won't be making good decisions. I will be coming from a state of, tiredness, or I'm hungry. So, it's like when you're hungry, you're upset. You don't make the right decisions. So I try not to make big decisions. I don't try to do them whenever I'm either in those states. Yeah. So I try to be good.
All right. So you've done, what does it look like? How many do you guys do a year? And how many deals have you
now we've probably been involved more than, I'll say, 500 deals, because, throughout the years, we try to stay between, now we're doing a little bit more because we're doing a little bit more novations and all that. Before, when we started, we were doing a lot of hoteling and wholesaling. So we didn't have a lot of exit strategies at the beginning. But now we are doing all the different, we're doing listings, anything that is an opportunity. We try to take it in. One of the things that it was a really big game changer for me was when I came up with this idea of building programs into my business, right? So every exit strategy that we were doing, we built a program on it. So if it was a cash offer, we called it the Cash Offer Express. Our listings, we call them Platinum Listing Program. Our novations were Platinum Listing was the regular listing. Our novation was the premium listing. And then we have our sub 2s that they were the Fresh Start program. And then our owner finance were the rent to own VIP program. So now when we started pitching all of these programs to people, so as a lead will come in, we will look at their asking price and pretty much how they needed to go. So our acquisition, or myself, will pitch the program, would be like, hey, so we have these programs that we have that are available for you. Because I feel that people nowadays, everything is based on a program. You got the Obamacare program, especially we go for distressed people. So we put it where they understand what program that they need to be in. So that was a huge game changer for us, because now we were able to do all these different exit strategies, and it was easier to convert those leads into the program that they needed to go in. Because when you give too many people too many options, they don't know what to pick, So we kind of guided them into like, hey, this is your program, and this is a program you fit in, and this is what we offer in this program. So now they feel like, oh, it's a program. I like this. They feel safe. Now we're speaking their language, you know? So so now we're doing a lot more deals because of that, because we open our variety of business based on programs, right? We're not an investment company. We're a real estate solution company is what we call ourselves now, you know? And because a lot of these sellers, they don't like investors, you know, they feel like, oh, they're going to take advantage of me. So we pretty much put their needs and we fit them into a program. And that's how we're able to help a lot of these sellers now. And we're able to convert more deals, you know, because we kind of changed our whole like business strategies now, you know, so that helped us out a lot, you know. And I got that idea in the shower. It just makes sense, you know. It makes sense to me. So we're doing a lot more volume now, which is great. And even if it's small fees, even if it's just a listing, but to me it's all about volumes. I like to have volume. I don't like to be stuck on a flip or stuck on this. It's like we gotta keep going, you know. So
okay, so do you flip anything, or do you hold anything? Do you know?
Yes.
What do you do with the property?
You do. So a lot of them we don't hold. We do. So all of our owner finance ones are the ones that we hold, because we're going into these properties with obviously a lower interest rates. And so we keep those, but anything else, like we flip them, we put them on the market, or we do a novation or whatever. We tend to sell it, you know, but the ones that we are keeping are all our owner finance, right? Because we want to make sure we go in it with a good rate, and we're working directly from the seller and not from a bank, you know. So those are the ones that, you know, we do keep. We actually acquired one in the Heights, and this was from our rent to own VIP program, for only $5,000 down and at a 3% interest. So the seller owned it free and clear. So she put pretty much the interest what she wanted, but it was really based on the program. The program is what we offered, and she took it, you know. So, and that's how we're acquiring these. But I mean, we're going into these properties at $5,000 down. And this house is in the Heights, so we kept it. So we're giving her $1,600 a month, and this property is renting out for $2,600. So we're cash flowing $1,000 on this particular property. Right now, if you try to buy a rental, like they're not even cash flowing. So we're kind of being a little bit smart on how we're acquiring these properties. But we pretty much just look at the deal, analyze it, break it apart, and see what is the best exit strategy for this. And that's kind of what we do with the property, you know.
So speaking of exit strategy, do you make the decision on every property? Like what?
Yes.
And at what point? Is it before you even acquire, or after you?
No, I don't know. I always tell my acquisitions, you bring me the property and then we discuss it, right? Because I always feel like get it under contract first, and then we can go about how we're going to do it. I mean, if there's time we go back and renegotiate, that's okay. Or I'll help them, you know, put in some terms in there. But yes, I always tell them, do what you can, get it under contract. Even if you're not sure, still get it under contract, because we have option period for a reason. But I'd rather have it under contract and then deal with it, and then not have it, you know, wait too long to try to figure out, oh, what should we do? I'm like, no, you just get it, and then I'll figure out what we're going to do with it, you know. So, but everything does go through me, you know, because I'm kind of like the little brains of how to get I'm very creative on how to acquire these deals. So I'll kind of go back and like, hey, this is what we're going to do, you know. So
have you ever taken a disc test?
Yes.
What does your profile look like? I'm just curious.
So I'm a very high D for sure, but I took in the disc test on I think it's called I forgot the other one, but I was a rainmaker. And it's funny because everyone that took their disc test, like their dots were kind of together and mine were like all like spread out, it's very odd when you see a result like that. But so I think a lot outside the box, for sure. And I'm not your typical, like, you give me something and I'll try to create something with it, even if it's not much, but my brain will figure out a way to, how can we make this work? What can we do here? Where I create a win-win situation for everybody, right? Not just for me, but everyone that's going to be part of this deal. And that's another thing that I'm very good at. Like, I want everyone to win, right? I don't ever come in. And I think that's why one of the reasons I've been very blessed in this business is because I create a win-win for everybody. And, seller, for me, for whoever is in there. So that's one of the things that's really helped me to work with other people, and why the sellers, they love me, because they're like, oh, you're not just like any other investor that takes advantage, or any other company, so, and I just make it like that, make the deal where everyone's happy.
So you guys are a virtual company. Do you actually meet with the seller face to face, or is it all on the phone?
No, all on the phone. I do get on Zooms with them, because I always send them, one of the things that I do right away when I get off the phone with sellers is I send them my card. It has a picture of me, because like I always tell them, I want to make sure you know who you're talking to. And my first goal is to make them feel comfortable with everything they're doing, right? I never put pressure on them. I explain to them the process, because a lot of people, when they're selling their homes, this is a first time for them. And I feel like a lot of people, what they lack on is explaining process to these two sellers. Like right away, they're like, well, how much you want? Or this is what we're going to offer you. And I like to be different. I like to tell them, well, let me tell you what it's like working with me, right? And I tell them exactly the process of what it's like to work with me. And they love it, because they're like, thank you. You didn't come to us right away where like, oh, what are you going to offer? Or this is what we're going to offer, or this. Now, I like to tell them, like, I already assume that they're going to work with me. So I tell them, I just want to tell you what it is like to work with me. And I even give them the option if they want to get on a Zoom, just like you and I, so that way they can talk to me. And these are the ones whenever they are out of state, or, the ones that if I don't go walk the property, I get on Zooms with them so they can see me, hear me, and feel me. And that makes a huge difference on them making decisions, because people don't make decisions because they're not comfortable about something. So I don't like to leave any room of nothing that I didn't explain. I make sure I explain the process. I make sure I explain how it is to work with me, and then they see me, so everything that may be a doubt, I cover it for them.
That's awesome. Okay, so before we started recording, we chatted, and you shared that in today's market, novation is your most successful strategy.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about novation. How do you pitch this to the seller?
Yeah, so I mean, novations has,
or actually, how do you identify this is the novation opportunity, and then how do you pitch it at that time?
I'm gonna let my dog out. She wants to get out.
Okay, crying.
So yeah, novation has been a huge game changer, and it's very, very popular now. But I actually, started doing novations about like 5 years ago, and to a lot of people, like a lot of realtors, because I get a lot of realtors that ask me what are novations. It's practically a net listing. I don't know. Are you familiar with net listings? So it's where I go in and I tell the seller, because a lot of these sellers, they want, obviously the most they can get for their property. And I tell them, I'm like, okay, so I kind of act like as a realtor, I'm like, all right, Mr. Seller. So like, for example, I'm like, Ms. V, I understand that you want to get, your 150,000. But in order for me to get you this, I am going to have to bring this to a different type of buyer, because now that you're asking close to retail, which I want to give you this, I'm going to have to put your property on the market. I said, but the great thing is you won't have to pay any commissions, no closing costs, none of that. So you will still net your 150, but I am going to put the property on the market for more so the buyer can cover all of the closing costs, commissions, and our fee in there. So you don't even have to pay us, and they love that because they're like, yes, and a lot of these realtors, they're going in there where, yes, I'll give you 150, but you're going to have to still pay us commissions, closing costs, and all that. And of course, when you're analyzing the deal has to still make sense, right? Which most of the time they do. And so they're okay with that. They're very happy about that because now you're giving them the 150. And I even tell them, because, of course, sellers think that, oh, if I put it on the market, I'm going to have to fix it or I'm going to have to do this. And I don't want to do that. I said, don't worry. You're going to get your 150 and then everything above that, we will cover it. If we have to fix this or we have to fix that, we will take care of that on our end. So you don't have to worry about that. So they're like, okay, go ahead, put it on, do whatever you got to do. As long as I'm getting my 150, I don't care what you make or what you do, and we've actually, a lot of the deals that they were not able to be wholesale because they're too tight, where they're not able to be a flip because the numbers don't make sense. We've made them into a novation and we've profited like 40K. 50K on these deals. And these deals were nowhere to look like a deal. So those are the great things about the novation because now you don't have to find a lender. You don't have to, pay for the holding costs. You don't pay for closing costs. You only pay for closing costs when you find the buyer on the market, but you don't have to close on it, if you were buying it like as a flip, So you get to save all this money on all of that and still profit a good amount of chunk of money. And it's crazy because these deals don't look like deals. Like you look at them, you're like, the numbers don't make sense. The numbers don't make sense. But out of those deals that don't make sense to obviously other people, I've taken these deals and we've, like I said, profit 40K, 45K on some of these deals, And, my husband was very happy when I started doing the strategy. He's like, you're such a genius. That's why I married you. But it's just like, you just have to know how to work the deal because numbers don't lie. I'm a numbers girl. So I look at numbers and I'm like, what do I have room to do in this deal? And that's how I'm able to take that. And I tell the sellers, I'm like, look, you want me to give you what you're asking for? Well, then I need you to favor to let me do this, right? Let me put it on the market and let me do that. And they're like, okay, but you have to talk to them. Like one of the things about me, I communicate so, then this is what helped me being a hairdresser is all I did was talk. So I'm really good about communicating with people. And one of the things I always tell them, I want to make sure you understand exactly what we're doing here, right? Because I want you to know what you're doing. I don't want you to have any surprises at the end and you're like, well, you didn't tell me this, right? So I'm very upfront with them and I do tell them like, hey, whatever above 150, I'm going to keep my fee and then I pay the realtors, I pay the closing costs, and they don't care because when you close on those properties, the seller does see what you're going to make. But because I was so honest and upfront and they're just so happy that I was able to get them what they're asking for, they don't care. They don't really care what you make, So
you mentioned a net listing. Do you then actually sign, because I've seen it both ways. Do you actually sign a listing agreement or do you sign a contract, a purchase contract?
So I signed a purchase contract for 150 with them, right? And then I do a power of attorney. So that way so the realtor I'm communicating with the realtor. Everything is communicated with me. My promise to the seller of the 150 is still there, right? Because I promised them 150 and that's where I'm going to get them. So whenever I do put it on the market, I have a realtor, which he does all my novations. And so I sign everything off for them. All the offers, they all come to me. the seller doesn't get disturbed at all. The only thing is like, hey, we're ready to close, and I let them know, and that's it. But I deal with the realtors, with the offers, inspections, everything. I'm the responsible one for everything through the power of attorney. So they sign a power.
So during this time, the seller still occupy the property?
Sometimes. Most of them that I've done, they've been vacant. But if they are there, then I just tell them, hey, so-and-so's going to come, whatever. They are aware. But I try to go for the properties that are vacant because they sell quicker. Because if they're there, then it's gonna be a little bit hard for them. But I try to go for more of the vacant properties because a lot of these are absentee owners that we're dealing with, So the tenant just got out or something like that, So, but if they are living there, that's fine.
Yeah. So, but they already know that you're going to
they know.
Put the house on the market, sign in the yard.
They do.
All of that.
Yeah. And I built such a great relationship with them that they're okay with it. They're like, okay. And it's all about how you explain it to them. They like it. That's why they like me, because I don't hide things from them. And they're like, thank you for being honest with me, not trying to sneak something behind my back and then I find out. So they appreciate that so much, because like I said, I try to tell them, I want to make sure you understand what I'm doing here, so you don't have any surprises, so, and they appreciate that a lot.
So I would assume that you need to put some special language in the special provision explaining this to the seller to allow you to list the property on the MLS.
No, I don't. I mean, I do put on there that I am going to do a power of attorney, and the power of attorney is just to make the decisions from me putting the property on the market, because like I tell them, you don't need to deal with that. I've already promised you your 150. I don't have to come back and tell you, hey, you got this offer, you got that offer, because that's not your headache. That's going to be I'm dealing with that. So I would need a power of attorney to be able to make these decisions. I'm only going to make decisions on your property, on offers and things like that. So that's the only thing that is on there. But I tell them like why I need the power of attorney, right? Because I don't want to bother them and be like, hey, we got this offer, because your 150 is getting guaranteed. So it doesn't matter what offers we get over here, So that's pretty much all I add on there is just a power of attorney. But I do take them another sheet of a power of attorney, and I just tell them this is to make decisions on the offers that your property's getting. Nothing else. I'm not trying to take over the property. I'm not trying to make decisions on your property. It's just for that. And I just put that on there, that this power of attorney is just to make decisions on the offers and for me to be dealing with the realtors, the permission. So that's it.
Are you the listing agents on these deals?
No, I'm not even a realtor. I have a friend of mine, Billy. He's done all my novations. He's worked with me for like this whole time, and he's really good. He understands novations, because it does take a special realtor to understand novations and know what you're doing. Because if not, it can get kind of ugly, because other realtors, they'll try to say, oh, that's illegal. And yeah, it might look illegal, but it's not. That's a great thing.
Yeah, nothing's illegal about it.
If
it's like a long game for wholesale was considered illegal, right? So it was never illegal. I misspoke, but every realtor out there thought it was illegal,
right?
The wholesale, right?
Yeah.
Who signed the sale contract?
So the seller, me and the seller signed.
Seller.
Yes, we have a sales contract for 150, right? And then I get a power of attorney, because I'm going to put it on the market, right? So on the power of attorney, it says I'm going to make decisions with realtors and with all the offers, anything that has to do with selling the property, I'm going to make the decisions on that, So they're okay. They say, as long as I get my 150, I don't care what you do after. So that's why I do that sales contract, because that's between me and them. And then I take that, and then when I put it on the market, then that's between the realtor, and the power of attorney is between the realtors and myself now, because I'm
Yes, and a second contract
Yes.
you sign.
Right.
The seller
does
homeowner does not sign.
No,
Okay.
I don't even look at any. I do everything on when.
And who signed the closing?
Okay,
The sale.
seller. The seller signs.
The seller.
Yeah.
So this is when the sellers see the settlement statement and see,
Yeah.
you know, their money,
Right.
your money.
Exactly.
And okay.
Yeah.
So this actually also helps because if you try to assign a property, a traditional lender would never approve that deal.
Nope.
But this way, you will put it in as like a fee.
Yes.
Like Andrea Cruz professional fee, something like that.
Yeah, so we do because we've had that issue where we had a conventional lender and they were like, okay, how are we going to add? So what I did is I added a lien on the property of the amount that I'm going to get paid for. And that's how they were able to pay me my fee. Because you obviously, if you have a lien on it, you got to pay those liens out. And the lenders will approve that, right? Because it's a lien. So that's how I was able to get paid on any conventional or even FHA loans was through that lien. So I put the lien and then they took it and then that's how my fee got paid out.
But that means you have to put the lien in after you already have a sale contract because then you wouldn't know how much you're getting.
Right. Yeah.
There's a lien?
Yeah. No, it's after. And so you put it like, so once we have the contract, because most of these properties, it takes about 25 days to still close, right? Because they're going through a traditional lender.
That's faster than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
I was anticipating like 45 days.
No, I mean, some of them are 25 to 30, but I think 45 it's a little bit on the longer side. I've never had any of them take that long. But so you still got time, to put the lien on there because, and then another thing, you have a good title company. My title company knows how we work. So I put the lien on the property. They do a whole how do you do it? They run the title again, right? So that lien can pop up, and then that's how they're able to grab the lien. And then whenever it's time to show for the lender and all that, they see all that, So
okay,
that's how we've been doing it with a lot of the lenders like FHA or conventional.
Because if it's a cash deal with hard money, you don't have to worry about it. You just like a fee, a line.
Right. Yeah, if it's cash, it doesn't matter. And then hard money lenders is very rare for hard money lenders because we are going after a retail buyer. That's the whole purpose of us putting it on the market.
Right. Okay, so how many times did it not finish? Like seller back out? What's the percentage? How often do they ever back out of the deal?
I've never had not one back out. I've been lucky enough that I've never had not one back out. They all understand the process. I've not had one where I not able to sell. I did have one novation where, and this happened last year, where I did do repairs on it because on some of them I do repairs. And the seller didn't tell me. He told me there was foundation issues, but I never asked for the certificate. And it wasn't until we were selling it on the market that was like, hey, where's the certificate? And then he was like, oh, I don't have it. Or he tried to look for it and he's like, I can't find it. So then that became an issue. And so we had to drop the price on the property. And that kind of became a little conflict with the seller, right? Because he was expecting to make a certain amount. But that's the only time where it got really ugly on me because I had to take, it wasn't a loss, but I broke even pretty much because the seller really wanted what I told him. But I'm like, but you told me you had a certificate, but it was my fault. I should have looked. I should have checked. But at the time I was on a roll with all these properties that you're like, I'll take it. And you lack to check. So that's another thing, that I learned from that process to make sure I have all those things in order. But as far as that's the only time I had an issue. And it got an issue. I almost got sued and all that from the seller. But I'm a very, I like to let's work together through this, right? It doesn't have to get to that. But of course I had to take that loss on that one. but it was more of a breaking even kind of. Whatever I put in was what I got out, so it didn't make anything. Yeah, the seller was the one who ended up making.
So what's your risk? What's your risk in these type of deals?
When I take on the repairs, I sometimes do repairs just to get them to be able to get them for more, to sell for more on the market. That's the risk that I take on them, you know. But I make sure I do my numbers correctly, right? The only time was with that one, and that was because he didn't have that foundation, and there was a big old crack on the house. But I thought he had fixed it. So I gotta just make sure I do my due diligence, and then I don't go with properties that are over 350 or in the 400s, because those tend to sell a lot slower. You know, I stick with properties below like 300 and below, you know. But that's really, I mean, the risk you take is if you fix the property and you don't sell it, you know, the seller's gonna keep a property that's been fixed. But I try not to do that anymore. I just do like minor things like paint and stuff like that. Because my husband was like, yeah, you don't want to do that. We did all that work for nothing. So he was not happy.
But you eventually will get paid though, right? Would you paint?
Yeah. No, you get paid. Like I've done a lot of properties that I did repairs on and I got paid on them. You get paid. You get paid for your money, and that the only thing is that what happened here was that he wasn't honest about, well, not that he wasn't honest. He told me he had a paper. He didn't have the paper, and I didn't check first. So then they came back at a lower price, and I didn't anticipate that lower price. And then that's where it kind of got upside down for me. But that's the only time. But other than that, like, I've never had a seller back out. I've never had anything, you know, happen. I mean, we're very straightforward. If they do get in the need of back out, sometimes what I would, if they would tell me, hey, Andrea, this is not selling fast enough, I offer to give them like $500 a month while they're waiting for me to sell a property, right? So they are like, okay, well, at least I'm getting something out of this, right? So, but I would make that back, right? So I just try to keep them happy, but where I'm not losing, but, you know, I try to keep them, I try to do things that other people wouldn't do, right? Because they're like, well, what's the difference between you and my realtor? Well, I'm like, well, your realtor is not going to pay you $500 a month while she gets the property sold. I will do that, you know, but because I'm confident in what I'm doing. So, yeah. And I tell them, like, I know I will sell your property, and I always do. I don't think I've never had a property I didn't sell, because I stay in those ranges. Like I said, you know, anything below 250, you know, so anything higher is going to take a little bit longer to sell. So, you know, you just know your numbers, know your market, know your areas.
I would also imagine you do have some type of termination clause in your first contract, or like a long option period as your way to get out if you need to. Like if you realize you signed a deal and then you realize this is a really, really bad deal. Like this is way too much or something, you know, there's more that you didn't know.
Yeah, I do.
Do you have?
I do. But I never had to exercise that, you know. Thank God I never had to. I'm the one who don't want to get out the deal. If anything, is them that they may say, well, they want to get out, but I don't, because I want to get paid and I want to put in whatever. But because if I'm not putting any repairs or I'm not doing anything, like I'm literally strictly just putting on the market, there's no reason why I should want to get out the deal, you know, or like I want the property to sell. So it's never been a time where I want to get out the deal. If anything, it's them wanting to get out of the deal. But like I said, if they start to get antsy, I do give them a monthly payment just to kind of keep them at ease, you know. But I kind of play my cards right, you know. I try to look at everything that could go wrong, and then I try to build a plan behind it, just so in case if it does happen, I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to do with that. But novations are not that, they're not that bad. You just put them on the market and find a seller for them and clean them up and make them look nice. just like you would any traditional sell, So there's really not that much risk going on there. It's just if you got to have your numbers correctly, right? Because then that's where if you don't have that correct, like I take in place the closing costs, the commissions of both realtors, and then my fee. So I have to make sure there's enough for all of that in there, and then what the buyer wants, because I can see how that can go wrong if you don't have your numbers in place.
Right, right. So speaking of that, how do you prevent, because you guys don't go out and look at the property. So what's your due diligence to make sure you're not getting into a bad deal?
So it is.
Bad deal can be bad.
Yeah, no. So when we're doing properties, like I did one in Joplin. It's funny because I don't even know where Joplin was. And I have a realtor. I always look for realtors. Realtors are my best friends. I love realtors. And I tell them, hey, what are my plans on this property? So I give them like money up front to be my eyes there, So I'm like, hey, I need you to analyze this for me. And you're obviously going to be the one that is going to help me to put it on the market and go look at it. So they go and record for me, But I tell them, like, I'm more concerned on the big ticket items. So like the AC, the roof, any foundation issues, cosmetic stuff I'm okay with. But so they're the ones that go for me and look for me and then do the due diligence, because who knows better than a realtor does, right? So every time I do it somewhere out of state, I always reach out. I go on to my batch leads. And batch leads gives you a list of all the realtors that sold in that area. So I reach out. I always look at their names. It's funny because that's how I make my
batch lead. Now, is this a website?
Yeah,
a subscription that you have?
Yeah, batch leads. Yeah, batch leads, and they have it's a realtor. It's how you connect with other realtors, and it tells you. So you put the area that your property is at, and it gives you a list of all the realtors that sold properties in that area, and it gives you their phone numbers or emails. And so I look at the names, right? And I based on the name, I'll pick, if it's like a Karen, I ain't going to pick a Karen. But I just look at their names and I look at their face, because sometimes some of them come with pictures, and I just look and see who will be more helpful with me with this, right? So, and then I'll reach out to them, and then I send them, they decide to work with me. I always give them $100 up front to help me, right? Not for anything else, but just to help me to start off the relationship, right? Because I don't like to waste people's time. And then so
you're not picking the hottest realtor in town.
No, I pick the easygoing, like, I don't know. I'm really good about reading people. So like when I see their pictures, I know if they're going to be too difficult to work with or they're like more easygoing. So I go for the more easygoing people. And a lot of them, they're like, oh, I've never heard of this. So I teach them. I'm like, this is how you do this and all that. So I like to give them value too. So, and they're like, oh, I think you're, so that makes them more my friend. And so now, like, I'm able to build these relationships with these realtors. So if I ever have another property there, those are my go-to realtors now. So that's how I'm able to do it, because it's all about relationships. I always say this is not a real estate, business. It's more of a people business, so it's all about the relationships you build with people and how they're able to help you, right? Because you need people to help you. So I always try to build good relationships with everyone, and I give them money to help me because I know no one wants to do nothing for free. So I understand that, and they like that because I respect their time, and that's how I'm able to, build these relationships. And they're good to me. They're not like, because if I tell them, hey, go do this for me and do that, and they're looking at me like, I ain't gonna do this for free, So yeah. The fact that I even offer them that money, they like that because it's me telling them I respect your time and I think your time should be valued. So I'm gonna pay you to do this for me, and they respect you more. They do things for you better because you're like you took that initiative of respecting them first. So, because if you don't do that, then they're not going to do things for you right. They're going to be like, oh yeah, I took a picture here, or yeah, I took a picture there, for what? But because you took the time to, hey, but I respect your time, here's some money, and I do appreciate it. They like you more for that,
That's amazing, man. All right. So what does today's Andrea, what advice do you have for your 18-year-old Andrea?
So my advice is don't worry about it. It's going to be good. And the reason why I say that, because we tend to stress ourselves out on things that don't even happen. So like, trust the process, right? Because if I could have saved myself so much stress on that first flip of all these things, because I had a lot of sleepless nights, because in my mind, we're like, this is going to happen and that's going to happen. And most of those things don't end up happening. Right. So, that's the advice I would kind of give myself, because a lot of times we tend to stress ourselves too much, and, stress can lead to sickness. It takes a toll on your health. And so just trust the process, right? Do everything, and then trust God, do your best and then trust God to do the rest. That's one of my favorite sayings. Do your best and then trust God to do the rest. And I wish I would tell myself that when I was 18, because I would cry myself to sleep. I was always overthinking things that never even happened. So I put myself on a lot of stress. And so if I could go back, I would tell myself that, because, everything kind of, you only get one body. And so you got to learn to take care of it. And then when you're in an industry like this, you need to learn to handle your stress. You need to learn to handle your emotions, because if not, you're going to burn yourself out. You're going to quit, so learn, to do your best and trust God for the rest. So that's
amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Wonderful advice. All right. So what is your favorite hobbies?
I like to play tennis. I like to stay active. And I like to read. I do more of the audio books. I have this really great app that's called Headway, and I love it. I recommend it, for everyone. It's just different books that give you all the main points of that book. Because I'm a very antsy person, not antsy, but I don't sit still. I like to, so for me, reading, sitting down to read is a hard thing, but I like to learn. So Headway has been one of the things that I listen to while I'm getting ready. And for any book I want to learn on, it could be about money, it could be about real estate investing. It gives you all of the tips of the main of that book. So you're getting all the value of it, but at a shorter amount of time. So if it's something like a book, it gives you everything. So I like to do that. And I love to pour into people. That's one of my gifts is, adding value to people or solving problems. I know it's not a hobby, but I love it. So, so that's
your blog.
Yeah. I tell people, bring me your problem. Let me see how I can solve it, So I spend my time a lot doing that, and pouring into people, or pouring into the people I work with, or pouring into my kids, and, just, spending time in nature and stuff like that,
Girl, we're going to have you to come back again for another recording.
Yes.
It has been really, really amazing.
Good.
So
we should have lunch, because I know you're here in Houston.
I am. I'm back now. Good. I don't plan to do any extensive travel until maybe next year. So
nice. Well, good for you. I'm glad you took that time to do that.
Yes. I'm glad I did it too. Okay. So how does the audience get in touch with you? Because I learned a ton from you today, and I'm sure for new people, they learn a lot and they might want to connect with you. So how do they connect with you?
So on Instagram, I'm under Andrea Buys Houses. So they can look for me there, follow me. I do put content out there, things that I do. And also on Facebook, I'm under Andrea Cruz. I just started doing TikTok. So I'm under Andrea Buys Houses there. So you could feel free. If you follow me, I'll follow you back. And anytime people have questions, feel free to, send me your deals. One of the things I do with a lot of people is they bring me their deals and I actually close the deals for them. They're not able to close them doing a novation or doing anything like that. I go with them to the property. If they're here, obviously here in Houston, but I walk them through the deal and I help them to get it under contract and we just partner up on it. So if you are new to wholesaling or to anything, if you have a deal that you're working with a seller, feel free to bring it to me. You can DM me on Instagram or Facebook and I will help you bring that deal. Like give me the info and I let them be on a 3-way call so they can hear how I'm actually acquiring and getting these deals so that way they can also learn. But I think it's a great way for people to learn, right? Versus me telling them, well, say this, say that, so they can see the actual scenario on how that goes down. So bring me your deals.
All right. Well, bring deals.
Yes. Send me your deal.
One of us will close them.
Yes. Yes, for sure. For sure. I am a very good closer. So
I can tell.
Yeah, it's an art.
All right.
It's definitely an art.
It certainly is. Well, once again, thank you so much. And thank you for all your wisdom, all your, everything that you shared today. It's been amazing.
Thank you, V. I really appreciate for having me here. And it's really a pleasure to meet you.
So my biggest takeaway from this conversation with Andrea is don't give up. By the way, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode with a friend. I really, really appreciate it. And it helped this channel more than you know. Thank you, and see you in the next episode.